Gave him the gift of life when no one else could help and everyone called me brave, but right after he got better he said he needed freedom and left me for a woman who didn't even know he was sick. I didn't do it for love. I mean, maybe it started that way, but in the end, it wasn't love. It was about survival. His survival. And maybe, in some way, mine too. We'd been together 2.5 years when the doctor told him that he needed a kidney transplant. I still remember how he said it like he was joking, like it was just some weird blip that would fix itself. But it didn't. His kidneys were failing, both of them. Rapidly. And suddenly this guy I'd been going to barbecues with, arguing over movie plots with, falling asleep next to, he started to look sick. He lost weight. His cheeks hollowed out. He was always tired. And angry. So angry. I think that's when I started feeling like I had to hold everything together for both of us. That I wasn't just his girlfriend anymore, I was his nurse, his emotional support system, his appointment maker, his everything. And I didn't mind. Or at least maybe I did, a little. But if you love someone, or at least you hope you do, you make room. Even when there is no room left for you anymore. I didn't even hesitate when donating my kidney was a possibility. He didn't request it. Not exactly. But I could see it in how he would be quiet after every dialysis session. How he stopped staring at himself in the mirror. The way he looked at me like I was the last thing normal he had to his name. So one night, in our tiny apartment over cereal for supper, I proposed, what if I got tested? He was looking up at me, spoon suspended in midair halfway to his mouth, and blinked like he hadn't heard me right. And then he laughed. "You'd do that?" he asked, in a questioning manner, as if testing me. I consented. It did not feel like a turning point. Just the next logical step. Like we were both falling and I'd just given him my parachute. As it happened, I was compatible. Rare, apparently. Doctors said it was kind of miraculous. Fate or something. All of them started telling him how lucky he was. "You've got a real one," his mother told him, and she gripped me tighter than ever before. The operation came soon enough after that. Tests, blood tests, counseling. I don't think I really had time to think too hard about what I was giving up. Or maybe I did, and I just chose not to. He was so grateful, so kind during those few days before the operation. He'd kiss my forehead, serve me tea, hold my hand in front of the TV. It was as if we were on the same side again. As if maybe this whole storm had brought us together, instead of driving us apart. I won't lie. Recovery was not easy. There were moments when I regretted it all. The pain, the exhaustion, the illness, it's like your body is grieving the part of you that's gone. And then to top it all off, he started acting differently. Not right away. No, he was radiant first. He was laughing more often, strolling around without exhaustion, dreaming again. He said we should take a trip together. Somewhere with water, he said to me, "You deserve that." And I did. I believed every word. Until a few weeks went by and he wouldn't say those things anymore. Wouldn't look at me the same way. Spent more time outdoors with friends. And when I'd asked him who, he'd mumble or change the subject. I rationalized it as adjustment. Recovery. Feelings. Hormones. But within, something vile had started to stir, a knowing, devouring thing that told me something was not so right. And I was correct. He had a woman at his gym. Her name, well, it does not matter. What does matter is the fact that I discovered by accident. I was not spying, I swear. I inadvertently picked up his phone. He'd left it on the couch when he went out to take a call. It sprang to life with the message, "Last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about you." My heart sank. I just sat there, gazing at it as if I could blink and it would vanish. But it didn't. And when he walked back in, I had the phone in my lap as if it were radioactive. He didn't even seem surprised. That's what devastated me most. He simply let out this tired sigh, as if he'd been waiting for this moment. And then he said, "I didn't want you to hear it like this." As if that made it any different. I wish I could say to you that I screamed, or hurled objects, or yelled at him like the movies. But I didn't. I just sat there, quietly, while my still healing, still bruised body seemed to fold in on itself. He told me he didn't mean it. That she was just someone he clicked with. That things had been rocky between us. That maybe we moved too quickly. That he was in debt to me and that messed with his head. I nodded. I remember thinking, he's not even crying. Not a tear. He packed a bag that night. Said he was going to sleep over at a friend's. Left me a pile of dirty mugs, doctor bills, and a kidney-shaped hole that wasn't in my body anymore but in my entire life. Grief is meant to hurt like drowning. But this was more like drifting out in open water, as the shore slipped away from you. Like you sold your lifeboat, and now you're lost, wondering if maybe he ever loved you anyway, or if I was just the most convenient thing he could have gotten. I gave a physical part of myself to him. And he left me. A month later. As if I was a stepping stone to his version of the next life. A version I shouldn't be in. And the horrible part? I still miss him. I loathe it. I loathe that some nights, I still turn over expecting him to be there. That I still recall his laugh, or how he always brushed the hair out of my face. That some part of me still longs to think that it meant something. That I meant something. But I don't regret the kidney. I know that's crazy. I regret who I gave it to, maybe. But not the act itself. Because I know what it is to save someone. I know what it is to love someone more than they love you. And I know what it's like to get through something that would have killed you. Maybe I brought him back to life. But through that, I found something else, something raw and painful and beyond incredibly human. I found myself. The first week after he'd gone, I was out of it. You'd think heartbreak would be big screaming, crying, breaking things, but mine wasn't. I didn't even phone anyone. I just froze. I was sitting on the couch with the same blanket still over me for days, barely eating. I remember heating soup up for supper one night, and then letting it go cold beside me. I couldn't taste anything in the first place anyway. It was like my body was too tired to care. Healing from surgery was hard enough, but healing from that? From him? I didn't even know where to start. Others started to wonder. My sister showed up one morning out of the blue with a bag of groceries and that look on her face that made me know she already knew. I hadn't spoken to her, but she always knew when something was going on with me. She asked where he was, and I just said gone. That was all. She didn't question it. She just started tucking away my beloved food and inquired if I had showered. I had not. I still stank of the hospital bed sheets and whatever ointment he had applied to rub into my back when it ached. I took the longest shower of my life that day. Shed half of it in tears. Scrubbed so vigorously my skin turned red. As though I could scrub him off me. Like I could shed the part of myself that trusted him. The weeks that followed were a haze of paperwork and acting. Acting okay during follow-up sessions. Acting concerned when coworkers asked how he was. I hadn't informed anyone what actually transpired, not yet. Because how do you put it into words? How do you say, I gave a kidney to someone who broke my heart a month later? People can't figure that out. You're either a martyr or a punchline. And I didn't want to be either of those things. I just wanted to be invisible. But something changed after a while. Maybe it was the quiet. Or maybe it was the anger I'd been accumulating like poison. I woke up one morning and caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror, saw how thin I'd gotten, how my eyes were that far away. Bruised look of a person who's been run over emotionally and still holding out for the second blow. And I was angry. Not sad. Not broken. Angry. Angry with him. Angry with me. Mad that I got to wear the scar literally while he got to walk around sleek and shiny, like I was just a chapter he'd already read the ending of. He healed. I was left behind. That's when I started writing again. Just little things at first, journaling, pieces of thoughts I couldn't manage to put into words. I wrote letters I never sent. To him. To me. To that part of me which had thought love was sacrifice. And slowly, through everything, I started to listen to myself again. Not that part who smiled politely when doctors talked long-term complications. Not that part who curled up under blankets for a message that would never come. But me. The me who giggled too much at awful jokes. Who loved thunderstorms and awful reality shows. And peanut butter straight from the jar. I missed her. She hadn't disappeared. She'd just been covered up by months of trying to be all things to someone who would never be all things back. I saw him once afterward. About 6 months later. At a farmer's market, of all things. He looked good. Healthy. Tan. He was with another woman, another who looked like the kind of woman who wears coordinated yoga outfits and doesn't cry herself to sleep. I saw him, and for a second, I think he panicked. Like he didn't know I'd be real again. Like I'd been a ghost from a story he'd already retold. I didn't speak. Just looked at him. And then walked away. Not because I was hurt. but because he didn't even get a second more of my effort. That moment, right then, was the very last thing that I ever gave him. People ask me now, if you could do it all over, would you still? Would you still donate your kidney knowing how it all worked out? And I do think about it, actually. Because no one wants to feel used. No one wants to feel stupid. But the reality is this: I couldn't be regretful of saving a life. I could be regretful of what they turned into afterwards. I could be regretful of trusting someone not capable of being loved the way that I loved. But not the action. That was mine. That was something coming from me. And he's not allowed to extract the goodness from it because he backed off. My body's changed. There's a scar, naturally. A little ache when it's chilly. But I wear it proudly. Not for being selfless, but for being authentic. I was present. I gave. I endured. And that makes a difference. It matters more than who he ended up with or what story he tells himself about what happened between us. My story is mine. And it's not just a tragedy. It's a lesson. A painful, raw, beautiful one. Love doesn't mean bleeding yourself dry. It doesn't mean giving until you're empty just to keep someone else full. It took me losing a part of my body to understand that. But now that I do, I will never forget it. It's strange, the way that pain reorders you. I figured I would be me again once the dust settled. But I wasn't. I couldn't. Something in me was turned irreparably, then not because of the scar or the broken heart, but because I had to learn to live differently. Not just physically, but emotionally too. You don't realize how much of yourself you give until there is no one left to give it to. I had been spending so much myself on us for so long, I had forgotten how to be me. And when he was gone, I couldn't even remember what I liked to do by myself. So I started small. I signed up for a pottery course because I saw an advertisement on the bulletin board of my local library and it interested me. It had nothing to do with pottery. It had to do with reclaiming a piece of myself that was curious, that loved to make things with her hands, that did not have to be useful or essential or perfect. The first lesson, I made an ashtray though I don't smoke. It was awful, lopsided, and it cracked. But I kept it. Made me remember that things that have broken still occupy space. Still are. And then there were the walks. I started walking every night. Not with earbuds. Just by myself. I'd walk for miles, sometimes aimlessly, sometimes with a destination to reach. I started to notice things I never had before: the way the sunlight filtered through the trees near the park, the rhythm of my own breath, the gentle hum of the world going on, even when your heart ceases. That was surprisingly comforting. The world didn't end because I did. It continued on. So maybe I could too. I did inform others, eventually. My best friend first. We sat on her porch drinking warm wine out of mismatched mugs and I just said it. He left me. A month after the transplant. Her jaw dropped open. She didn't say anything for a good 30 seconds. Then she stood up, went inside and came out with a pint of ice cream and 2 spoons. She didn't say all the wrong things. She didn't say, "He doesn't deserve you," or "Everything happens for a reason." She just said, "That's the worst thing I've ever heard," and sat with me while I cried into a lemon-shaped throw pillow. That night had taught me how important it is to be seen. Not to be pitied. Just to be looked at. So I started telling a few more people. Not everyone. Not all at once. But the more I said it out loud, the less it was in control. The shame started to ebb away. The humiliation was just another fading bruise. I even began going to an online support group, people who had donated organs to someone they loved and then felt betrayed, or forgotten, or even ghosted. I was not alone. That astonished me. You never think your story is among so many until you begin to hear echoes of it in other lips. Recovery isn't a line. There were days that I was okay, even hopeful. There were days when I couldn't get out of bed. There were nights when I texted him just to see if the number was still active, only to delete the message before sending. And there were times I wished I could erase him, forget him, delete him from my head like a file. But the heart doesn't work like that. You can't help but love someone because they hurt you. You can only make what do you do with that love now. Whether you carry it with you or bury it deep. I think I did both, in a sense. The real turning point, though, came on a completely normal afternoon. I was out shopping at Target of all places and I saw Mom yelling at her kid by the frozen pizzas. It wasn't anything big, just a weary mom and an irritable little boy. But the kid looked up at his mom and said, "I love you even when you're mean." And the mom stood there, laughed, and picked him up. And I was standing there, holding a box of cereal, crying like an idiot. Because that's what I'd ever wanted. Love that hung around. Love that earned bad days, surgeries, hard truths. And for a while, I believed I had it. But now I see I never really did. Not with him. I started dating again sometime. Slowly. Like dipping a toe in the water that I was afraid was ice. The awful initial dates, cringe-worthy, faked, laced with too long silences. But one of the guy's warm eyes, nervous grin, bookstore recommendations asked me out on a second date, and another on a third. He didn't even know about the kidney thing yet. I didn't go there first. But one night, when we were sitting in my kitchen eating my awful cooking of Chinese food, I told him the whole story. Not all of the bad stuff, but some. And he did not wince. He did not feel bad for me. He just said, that had to hurt like a son of a gun. And something in me cracked open. It is funny how healing is not always fireworks. It is just sometimes someone listening without attempting to fix it. Sometimes it's having the ability to say, I went through some bad stuff, and not have it define you completely. I still have terrible days. I still wake up sometimes and reach out and touch the scar on my side as if it's a reminder. Not of him but of me. Of what I endured. Of what I offered. Of who I am. Because that's the part one nearly lost. Not the kidney. Not the relationship. Me. I almost let someone take the best of me, the giving, the faithfulness, the love, and warp them into something regrettable. But no. I gave. I loved. And those choices were born of strength, not weakness. That is what I tell myself each time that little voice creeps in and tries to tell me, you were so stupid. I was not stupid. I was brave. I gave myself to someone I trusted. That's not something to be ashamed of. That's something to work with. It's nearly 2 years now. It feels like a long time, but healing isn't really a clock-related thing. There are days when I can still feel it, a tender bruise beneath the surface. The sort of thing that raises its voice when something presses just a little too close. A song, a smell, a hospital corridor. I don't know that you ever get beyond the kind of pain that teaches you who you are. But it changes. It softens. And eventually it stops controlling the way you breathe. I'm not angry at him anymore. I was for a long time. Angry at the cowardice, the betrayal, the way he made me feel disposable after something so permanent. But anger is heavy. And I carried it like a second body for months, dragging it with me into conversations, relationships, even dreams. Until one day I just didn't want to anymore. I was sick of existing in terms of what someone else had done to me. That wasn't mine to claim. His choices are his. I don't agree with them. But I don't permit them to determine who I get to be either. And the thing is, I'm proud of who I've become. I still bear that jagged little scar, just below my ribcage. Sometimes it itches when I'm stressed or if I have it on too tight. But I've become attached to it. It's like a secret badge, proof that I gave up something colossal and made it through the destruction. I've stopped hiding it when I change clothes at the gym. I've stopped flinching when someone asks where it came from. I just tell them, I donated a kidney once, and if they ask more, I lie. Because hiding only makes the wound more painful. Walking the story over and over again made it less painful. Until one day, it just became something that had occurred. Not the thing which had defined me. The guy I was referring to, the guy from the bookstore dates, didn't work out for eternity. But not because of the past. We just grew apart in opposite directions, wanted different futures. And this time, I left. On my own terms. It was quiet, kind, honest. And it was nice to walk away from something without ending up in pieces. That in itself was healing. Being able to love again, and leave again, without having a breakdown. Others want to know what I've learned from it all. As if there's supposed to be some kind of lesson or something. And there's perhaps one, but it's not clean and neat and Instagram perfect. It's complicated. It's messy. But if I had to write anything, I would say this: don't give because you don't want someone to leave. Give because you're who you are. But also love yourself enough to realize someone's only holding your hand because you're the one holding them up. Understand the difference between two-way strength and one-way survival. And when someone shows they're going to leave even after you've given it all, trust them. But also, don't let it make you hard. Don't let it make you smaller. Just be wise with your softness. I still have faith in love. I do. I know it's idiotic, but I've witnessed too much beauty, quiet, lasting beauty, to lose faith in it. I have faith in second chances. Not for others, but for us. I got mine the day I decided to start over. The day I gave up expecting closure that would never come. The day I learned that I didn't require his apology to heal. I've started volunteering lately, nothing extreme, an hour or so a month helping patients at a dialysis unit. It's strange, full circle actually. But it doesn't trigger me. It feels grounding. Like this one thread of pain, at least, can be rewoven into something that matters. Sometimes I sit next to a scared teenager or a harried dad and just listen. And when they realize I've survived it, in my own way, they soften. Because now I'm no longer this random stranger, I'm evidence that life exists. That bodies heal. That betrayal doesn't get the final word. I got a letter from him a few months back. Typed, not signed. He didn't ask for anything. He simply told me he wanted me to know that he was sorry. That he had thought about what he'd done every day. That he wasn't ashamed of the way he'd ended up, or who he'd become. I sat on my porch holding the letter in my lap and absorbed the words, one by one. It didn't make me cry. It didn't make me angry. It made me tired. Tired in an old-fashioned, soft way. I didn't reply. Not out of bitterness. But because I've said all I needed to say, to myself, in the dark, in the silence, in the living since. I don't need him to carry my pain any longer. I've carried it far enough. And I've laid it down now. So yeah? I donated a kidney to my boyfriend. And yeah, he left me a month later. But that is not the end of my tale. That is simply where it took a different turn. Where I took a different turn. I am no longer the girl who gave too much. I am the woman who gave what she was able, healed what she could, and kept moving anyway. And if you're listening to this, and you've ever imagined that love made you tiny, or that kindness was an error, I want you to know, it wasn't. You are not dumb for believing folks. You're not weak for giving folks who don't deserve it. You are not broken because someone couldn't deal with your worth. You're human. And being human is messy and brave and beautiful as hell.